Is Meet Me at the Diner with your host, Ann Eller.
Oh, that's right. We're on this afternoon right here on WCRS Radio. And as promised, we have a very special guest. Let's see, we're live on the radio. Check. We're live on Facebook. Check. I'm on the camera right now, but we have a very special guest. We have a South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson joining us. And I guess we could say, Alan, you've been everywhere. Is that what we could say? You're a busy man.
And I have been all over this place. A couple of weeks ago, I was at the Yuma sector of the border in Arizona. I was in Charleston. I was in Myrtle Beach this morning. I'm in Florence right now. I'll be in Columbia later this evening. So every day is a box of chocolates. I don't know what I'm going to get or where I'm going to be, but it's a great job and I'm enjoying it.
Well, I tell you what, Alan, I would love to get your take. I can only imagine what you're thinking when we look out at what's happening in California. And then, of course, coming up this Saturday is the 14th. It's the president's birthday, and there's talk of a lot of things going on. What do you have to say about California first?
Well, there's not a whole lot you can say about California. I mean, we've kind of, it's a crazy place these days. But I will say this. As a 29-year veteran of the military and a member of the National Guard, my hearts and prayers go out to the members of the National Guard out there who have been federalized by the president to kind of quell the violence. And I'm doing air quotes right now. Your viewers can't see it, but the mostly peaceful protest.
Right.
You know, the left to call them, and they did this in the summer of George Floyd when they said they were mostly peaceful.
Right.
But when you're busting down people's windows and breaking down their doors and setting cars on fire, that's not peaceful. And the fact that the state of California is not taking responsibility for this and the president has to activate the National Guard says a lot about where the priorities of those people are. But to the men and to the people who live there and are law-abiding citizens, and to the men and women in uniform, my heart and my prayers go out to you, and thank God that they're there.
Absolutely. Now, Governor Newsom, I mean, can you just imagine his attitude about and taunting Tom Holman to come and arrest him and this type of thing?
It's ridiculous. I mean, the number one function of government. I mean, and when I ran for Attorney General 15 years ago, I talked to Republicans and Democrats and independents alike. And a few years ago, people all agreed that a primary function of government is to promote public safety, to protect citizens in their rights and secure them in their property and their persons, protect their families. And if the government can't do that, then what is the purpose of a government? And so when you have a governor who's refusing to protect his own citizenry and is taunting the people that are coming in to try to protect the citizens of California, that shows you where his priorities are. That would not happen here in South Carolina.
Oh, that is so true. Now, speaking of South Carolina, well, first, I want you to comment about the 250th anniversary of the Army and the very fact that Trump is there this afternoon speaking to them, and the fact that it's now Fort Bragg again. What does that mean to you? I'm sure you've been to Fort Bragg many times.
I trained to be a United States officer, Army officer at Fort Bragg in the summer of 1995. And then a year later, I received my commission as a second lieutenant. I'm entering my 29th year of military service as a combat veteran, someone who served overseas, and someone who is a colonel, serving his country today. I am very proud of the heritage of the United States Army and the military writ large. You got to remember, Ann, not only am I a member of the military, I have three brothers who all served in uniform overseas. My father's a 31-year veteran of the Army National Guard. My grandparents served in World War II. So we have a family rich in military history, and so it's a day to be celebrated. There's a lot of heritage, there's a lot of history, a lot of patriotism wrapped up in this day. And I want to remind people the freedoms that we all take for granted, and we take them for granted, that we enjoy every day here in South Carolina, in the United States, around America. These are freedoms that they were paid for by blood and sweat. of generations that came before us, and those were people, men and women who served in the armed forces and also the Army. And so today we should celebrate that day and celebrate what it represents.
Absolutely. And it's my understanding that now people are wanting to go back into the military. Are you aware of that, Alan?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a renaissance going on right now. I'm talking to folks who are signing up, to be in the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, Space Force, even Coast Guard. Again, there's a renewed sense of patriotism. I mean, the military no longer is seen by many who used to see it as a laboratory. I mean, we felt like lab rats for social experiments by previous administrations. So right now, you look at what Pete Hegseth is trying to do as the Secretary of Defense and realigning the military with its primary core function. As a war fighter, someone who's fought in a war, I can truly appreciate what that means. Because it was getting to a point to where people were leaving the military in droves because they couldn't take the woke policies. They felt like social lab rats in a laboratory, and they didn't like it. And now they want to return to doing what they signed up for, fighting our nation's wars and securing democracy and freedom in this country.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted to mention that because I think that's pretty huge, and it's pretty huge that it's now Fort Bragg again, so that makes me happy too. But let's talk about some of the things that are changing. And first off, maybe we should talk about, you've put out a letter today about if anything happens in our state on the 14th. There's some talk of some kind of problems here, even in our state, in fact, across the country. Would you like to elaborate on that?
No, absolutely. There are a number of coordinated protest rallies going on around the country. South Carolina is not immune from it. These are left-leaning groups. And, I'll be the first to say anyone wants to come out and protest peacefully about an issue they care about, whether I agree with you or not, that is why I put on the uniform, to fight for your right to do that. But there are people who aren't coming out to peacefully protest. They're coming out to be disruptive, to cause harm, to cause not just property damage, but to intimidate people. And they're going to threaten law enforcement. They're going to try to hurt law enforcement. And if there's any of that going on in South Carolina, I want to remind these people that this isn't California. If you attack a law enforcement officer who's doing their job, if you try to wreck someone's business or their home or their property, or you try to hurt a person in the name of protesting, then we will put you in jail. We will put you under the jail. We're not going to tolerate it here in our state.
You're going to put them under the jail? Now that's interesting, Alan.
Well, it's a rhetorical flourish, but you know what I mean. The point is, the point I'm making is that we're not going to tolerate that kind of stuff here in this state. And we've got a great group of men and women in law enforcement throughout the state. Many of our sheriffs and our police chiefs, they're the tip of the spear, and I'm going to have their back. If they need us, we will prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law.
Absolutely. Now, so that's what you see going on as far as this weekend. Now, let's back up because I understand that there is a program that was going, and then when Biden came into office, they did kind of away with the program. They've brought this program back, and it's a coordination, I think, 287G program that is about deputizing law enforcement to be able to act almost as ICE agents. Am I right on that?
You nailed it on the head. So in 1996, the Immigration and Nationality Act had a section under it called 287G, and that is the section that created this program. And the Congress envisioned a cooperative federalism, and that's legalese for they wanted the states and the federal government to collaborate and cooperate with each other on the enforcement of immigration laws, because the Congress at that time knew that the federal government was ill-equipped to enforce every single violation of the immigration laws that there were, and that we needed to cooperate and collaborate with our state partners, whether they be sheriff's departments or police departments or other state law enforcement agencies. They created this program so that they could work hand in glove. Well, the Obama administration came in, and they kind of shut the program down. The Trump administration came in. They tried to get it revved back up, and then the Biden administration came in, and they basically made this program unworkable because they didn't agree with the mission of the program. So they made it so difficult that local law enforcement did not want to join it because it would either be too expensive or too bureaucratically cumbersome to be a member of the 287G program. In fact, over the last decade or so, there were only 3 counties in the entire state of South Carolina who were members of this program, the 3 sheriff's departments. I believe Horry, Lancaster, and Lexington, if I remember, were the sheriff's departments that were members. No other department wanted to join. One sheriff, Ellen, you'll get, Ann, you'll get a kick out of this. One of the sheriffs told me that they would have to be able to join under Biden administration. They would have to build additional holding facilities for transgender inmates, which was just a way of saying we can't afford to do that, so we can't even participate in the program.
Sure.
When President Trump was inaugurated, the day after, I reached out to Kristi Noem, and she put me in touch with Homan and her team, and we worked with them, and we revamped this 287G program. We stripped down all the garbage in it. We made it easier to join, more efficient. And as of right now, I believe somewhere between 15 and 20 sheriff's departments have signed up or are in the process of signing up to assist federal law enforcement in the enforcement of immigration laws. So we're seeing a renaissance and a renewal in our commitment to support federal law enforcement at the state level, which we did not have before January 20th of this year.
Absolutely. So, and this means that they can actually hold illegals short-term until ICE can get to them. Is that correct?
Yes, Ann, and there are levels of this program you can join. There are programs where you can either hold, you can either do the paperwork, you can hold or detain them, or you can actually do open operations. It just depends on what level you want to participate. Some law enforcement agencies don't have the bandwidth to do it all, and they just want to be able to support ICE at a lower level. That's fine. It can be tailored and structured to the needs of that local law enforcement agency. But the bottom line is local law enforcement and federal law enforcement should be working together in harmony to protect the communities where they reside. They should not be fighting each other. They should not be in combat or conflict with each other. And that is what we have seen in the past. And it's not the fault of the local federal agents that live here. It's the fault of the people in Washington, D.C., who either refuse to follow the law or they refuse to pass the laws that will better protect their citizenry.
Right. So this program is expanding, so that means there should be better coverage across the state. Now, what do you think? How is our state doing as far as illegals? And I know it wasn't long ago that you had a big bust down there in, was it Myrtle Beach? And there's been some big drug busts and whatnot going on. What are you thinking about how we're doing with the state and getting a handle on it in our state, the fentanyl and this type of thing?
Well, look, I see a lot of growth and potential in our collaborative efforts with federal law enforcement. You were referring to a major cartel bust, which was early last week in Charleston County. It was a partnership with the Charleston Sheriff's Department, the State Law Enforcement Division, working hand in glove with HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, and ICE, and the FBI and the DEA and whatever alphabet soup of federal agencies you can think of. They were all in it. And it was a 24-hour operation that busted up a known cartel and gang haunt, is what we call it. It was a club, I believe, called the Alamo. And during that operation, they were able to capture 2 members of the Mexican drug cartel. They were able to serve a murder warrant on an Interpol fugitive. They were able to liberate several human trafficking victims and seize large quantities of drugs, alcohol, and cash that was illicit.
Well, that was a big one then. Then, as far as that goes, what do you think is happening across our state? Do you think we're seeing a reduction? Now, I know they're saying at the border, of course, we have less people coming across, we have less drugs coming across. What is South Carolina? Have you been able to see a noticeable difference or not yet?
You know, it's hard. I can't put a number on, I can't quantify success at this stage. I can talk about the morale of law enforcement, which has gone up. I can talk about the collaboration, the coordination with local and federal law enforcement, which is at an all-time high. I've seen it firsthand. I'm talking to law enforcement. But just to give you a point of view, compare and contrast, I was at the Yuma sector in Arizona at the southern border 3 weeks ago. And at that 1 mile location, federal Border Patrol officers told me that in May of 2023, this is at the height of the Biden administration, they were averaging, just at that one little sector, I'm not talking about the whole border, that 1 mile sector, they were averaging 1,500 illegal crossings per day. In May of 2025, which is 3 weeks ago when I was there, they were averaging 4 illegal crossings per day. Now, if you go back, so from 1,500 a day to 4 a day. I was at the border last summer in Texas at the El Paso sector, and it was a completely different world under Biden. What that tells me is that all of those people that are coming across the southern border, by the way, no one crosses the southern border without the permission of the cartels. You have to get permission from the cartels. They were crossing. You had members of the cartels. You had Tren de Aragua. You had MS-13. You had Chinese nationalists. You had Iranian proxy terrorist organizations crossing the southern border during that 4-year period because no one was stopping them. They all went somewhere, Ann.
Yeah.
They went to the interior states of the U.S.
Right.
And so when I tell people, like, why are you going all the way down there? Because I want to understand what failed there and how it's ending up in South Carolina, because South Carolina is every bit as much a border state as Arizona or Texas is for purposes of crime.
So what about the northern border? They keep talking about the northern border. Do you know anything about that? Are we seeing more people coming across the northern border? And then I want to move on and talk about human trafficking.
Well, I mean, listen, every border, the northern border, the southern border, the ports of embarkation and debarkation, every port along the eastern and western seaboard, I mean, was a point for someone to exploit when it wasn't being adequately guarded. The northern border, from what I've been told by, members of Homeland Security, is that it has not been as big a priority because there has been more collaboration with us in Canada than there has been with us in Mexico with the Mexican drug cartels. Is it being exploited, or is there criminal activity? I absolutely believe there would be, but not at the levels we were seeing at the southern border.
Okay. Now, let's switch over and talk, because I know that you're passionate about that. Human trafficking, the children that have been just horrible type situations. What is your feeling about how we're doing on this now?
Well, I mean, listen, when I became Attorney General in 2011, there was no state human trafficking task force. We were ranked, as a state, we were ranked one of the worst states in the country on combating human trafficking. In 2012, I went to the legislature. I lobbied for, helped write a bill that was passed in a bipartisan fashion, and we were able to get the State Human Trafficking Task Force Act passed, which enabled us to have a task force which started off with 15 members, and now we're at over 2,000 members, plus 11 regional task force. This has enabled us to better manage manage the problem. We've been able to start keeping statistical information about human trafficking in this state. We've been able to train judges, first responders, law enforcement, judicial officers, prosecutors. We've been able to work with members of the education areas like teachers and school resource officers and administrators. Nonprofit organizations have been trained. So we are doing a better job on detecting human trafficking, catching it, and prosecuting it. But again, the more you learn about what's going on, the more you realize that how much got past you. So you're never going to be to a point where you have arrived at, eliminating human trafficking, because it's always been here. We just weren't looking for it before.
We're not. This is only a radio station.
Hello?
Hello. Yes, I'm sorry. I just had somebody walk in. Alan, so as far as the pornography and this type of thing, do you think we're getting things under control, or is this something that's going to take a while?
On our Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, I'm really proud that we have, since I've been Attorney General, I think we have prosecuted or caught over 23 or 2,400 individuals who have tried to exploit children online. This year in the General Assembly, we got a number of bills passed that are going to help revolutionize how we protect kids online and protect families. Namely, with the advent of AI, artificial intelligence, people were able to evade prosecution because they were able to take innocent photos of children and morph them into not so innocent photos of children, or they were able to take a bunch of images of a child and create from like 30 composite images, create a fake child that is indistinguishable from a real child. And then they were able to hide behind the fact that, hey, this is not a real child I'm exploiting. This is a fake kid. I have a First Amendment right. Well, we passed laws that cut that off. and we're now able to go and prosecute those people. We passed what's called an administrative subpoena bill. Before, if we got a tip that someone was exploiting a child at a particular address, like an internet address, it would take us several weeks to be able to get a subpoena signed off at the federal level to go find out if there was a child there or a person peddling porn there. Now I have the authority to sign a subpoena within 20 minutes, and within a day or two, we can get the information we need to go investigate that case. So these were major wins in the General Assembly, and it's going to help us better protect kids online and do a better job of educating parents and children as they surf the internet. So I'm really proud of that.
Absolutely. That is a big win and something. Now, is that just a state law or is it a federal law?
So that is a state law, but everything I just explained to you, I sent a letter that 53 other states signed on to about a year and a half ago. And the Congress just passed a law called the Take It Down Act. It's kind of like a revenge porn act where people were exploiting images of folks online. I was in D.C. 2 weeks ago at the White House, sitting on the front row, right in front of President Trump when he signed that law signed that bill into law. Representative Guffey was a major person involved in this in the General Assembly, as you know. Having dealt with his personal tragedy, but we worked with members of the legislature, and we got it done in South Carolina, and they got it done in Congress. So it is now a federal crime and a state crime.
That's a really big deal, Alan. Really, really big deal. I'm glad to see that happened. Now, I want to ask you one question, and I hope it's not going to be a problem. But this lawsuit that has been filed on behalf of the legislature or actually, I think it's Harpootlian is representing about the state increase in pay. For the legislature. Do you have any opinion on that?
I have not read the full brief yet on it. I'm aware of it. I got a call from the senator who was going to file it. He gave me a heads up. I'm not a party to the lawsuit.
Right.
I will tell you as a member of policy, it is my personal belief that, if these in-district expenses are considered income, and I don't really know how they work, but if they are considered income, then they should not go in effect until everyone stands for re-election. The way it works is that a legislature cannot give itself a pay raise, but a legislature can pass a law that gives a future legislature a pay raise. And until you go through that election cycle, you're in the same legislature. So that is probably what is at the heart of this lawsuit. If you elect me as a member of the General Assembly, I'm not going to ever vote for myself to have a pay raise until I have to go stand before you at the ballot box again. And so that's the point of that law. And so that is what is being challenged right now.
I see. Well, I sure appreciate you clarifying that. That one just has jacked my jaws, and I've talked about it a lot here on the radio, so I thought I might get an opinion from you, and I think it is something
and
that
can I say one thing?
Sure.
About that? There should be a process by which people get pay raises, because you can't stay in $1990 forever. Inflation goes on. Imagine if we all made the same salary we did in 1990. But you got to do it the right way. And if the General Assembly does merit a pay increase, it needs to be done in a constitutional and lawful way, and the people need to have complete and total transparency. So my comments aren't to the merits of the pay raise, because I don't know. I haven't studied the issue. My comments are strictly to, did they follow the law? And if they didn't, then the pay raise should not go into effect.
I understand. And you said $1990. I said, actually, Alan, I make less now than I did in 1990, but who's counting, right?
Oh, bless your heart.
I know. Bless my heart. Anyways, Alan Wilson, would you like to say something in closing before I let you off the air with me here today?
I really appreciate you for being a voice in your community and giving me a platform to talk to your listeners and your viewers about what's going on in the state. And I will be coming to your community a lot in the weeks and months to come. And I want to be accessible. So I look forward to coming back on your show frequently and often to be held accountable, which you need to hold my feet to the fire now.
I do that.
And ask me tough questions.
I will. And I just want to say, so therefore, would you like to make an announcement? I mean, I'm just asking, since you said you'd be here frequently, would you like to make an announcement?
I am formally announcing today that I plan to come on your show a lot over the next year.
Oh, darn it. Well, I got David Stumbo that just walked in the door, so I thought I might just see if you were going to announce and maybe I could get a double here. Who knows?
Well, you give Solicitor Stumbo a big hug for me. He and I used to prosecute cases 150 years ago when we were baby prosecutors. I'm sure he'll talk about that.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Alan, for coming on. I appreciate you very much. I know you've got a busy schedule, and we'll look forward to having you in studio sometime as well as on the telephone. Thanks so much.
God bless. Bye-bye.
All right. That is South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson has been on the air with us. We're going to take a short break, and we will be right back. This is going to be a unique show because I've done something I haven't done before. I'm now going to play commercials during Facebook Live and commercials during on the radio. So take it away. Let's see if it works. Here we go. Have a favorite blizzard from Dairy Queen? Did you know you can make it into a Dairy Queen blizzard cake?
DQ. Happy tastes good.
Make Father's Day special with a blizzard cake only from your local Dairy Queen on the 72 bypass. Order one today at dqcake.com.
DQ. Happy tastes good.
So make Father's Day, June 15th, extra special with your favorite blizzard as a cake. Only from Dairy Queen.
DQ. Happy tastes good.
Save the date. The 11th annual Music for Ministry fundraiser for Greater Greenwood United Ministry is set for Saturday, August 23rd from 5 till 8 p.m. at New Spring Church. The event promises another great evening of Christian music, live and silent auctions, and a palate-pleasing meal. Don't miss the opportunity to put your name in front of thousands of G-Gum supporters. Sponsorship opportunities are on our website at greatergreenwoodunitedministry.org. Music for Ministry, Saturday, August 23rd at New Spring Church. Don't miss it. Greater Greenwood United Ministry, celebrating 30 years of offering a hand up to those in life and medical crisis.
Before you jump in the water this summer, the YMCA wants you to know water safety matters. Feet first, first time. You never know what's under the surface. Take breaks. Even strong swimmers get tired. Check the weather. If thunder roars, head indoors. And the best tip of all, learn to swim. It's never too late. Make this your safest summer yet. Find swim lessons and more at your local YMCA or visit lakelandsymca.org.
From WCRS Studios in Greenwood, South Carolina, this is Meet Me at the Diner with your host, From WCRS Studios in Greenwood, South Carolina, this is Meet Me at the Diner with your host, Ann Eller.
That's right. We're right back here this afternoon on WCRS Radio. It was a great conversation with Alan Wilson. He told me he wants me to hold his feet to the fire. Just wait till next time, honey. Just you wait. That's right. And now we have, so it was a good conversation. We are on Facebook Live. We're also on the radio and streaming at WCRS1450am.net. So, this is what we got going on. David Stumbo said he was over in Lawrence and has just made it back. So, David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ann. Thank you for having me on again. It's always fun coming in the studio here.
It is fun to come in, and it's an opportunity to talk about what is happening here in Greenwood. Now, one of the things that I was kind of curious is Alan was talking about how our local law enforcement have been able to sign up to that program 287G. Have we done that here in Greenwood? Do you know?
I believe Sheriff Kelly has. I think the sheriffs are the ones that would sign on to the 287G program because they're the ones that are ultimately in charge of the detention centers. Mm-hmm. So essentially that's a federal program that allows when someone's arrested for the local law enforcement to be able to hold them under federal law for deportation proceedings and have them immediately go into ICE custody upon arrest. So that's something I need to make sure all 4 of our sheriffs have signed on to. That's not something that directly, that's typically between the federal government agencies and our sheriffs. I'm not in the middle of it.
Yeah, I just wondered.
But certainly, that is a good point. I need to make sure that all of our guys are signed up at all 4 sheriffs in our circuit. I believe Sheriff Kelly has, in terms of the Greenwood.
Just not sure, because what other areas do you handle as a solicitor?
Abbeville, Laurens, and Newberry are our 4 counties here in the 8th Circuit. So the 4 sheriffs and their detention facilities. That's not a bad point. I may, when I get off the phone or get off the radio, I may get on the phone with my sheriffs and make sure they're going through that process.
You can text me and let me know that everybody is signed up or not. That would be a good thing. So other things that are going on, as far as what's happening with crime and everything in our area, it seems like spring comes, summer comes, and all of a sudden we have more shootings happening from and although I think it's really great because our law enforcement is certainly able to catch a lot more of these than I remember back in the old days.
Right. And honestly, I think our guys are doing a great job in Greenwood, especially on these shootings because, and they're so difficult to investigate, especially if there's a drive-by shooting. There's witnesses that don't want to talk, and then you have a pile of shell casings on the ground that they collect, and they go canvass the neighborhood. They try to see if there's any surveillance cameras or Ring doorbell cameras. There's a lot more of those now, and that's helpful at times if they can get a make of the vehicle and that sort of thing. We just prosecuted one of the cases that happened during the barbecue festival a few years ago. Back in January, we convicted a guy named Christopher Longshore Jr., who did a drive-by shooting at the Uptown Grill late at night after the Saturday of the barbecue festival, and a completely innocent victim that was killed inside, a young lady that had a 10-year-old son. And so that case was solved by the Greenwood Police Department. The Sheriff's Department, I know, assisted with it, but that was a perfect example of another case. There, you did have some witnesses on scene that gave a description of the vehicle. We used flock cameras, which the City of Greenwood and the Sheriff's Department utilizes those on the traffic intersections, and it captures the license tag.
Oh, I thought they were looking at me.
That's right. That's right. They're just seeing what you're up to on any given day. And but yeah, that tool has been really just a game changer for law enforcement to find suspect vehicles quickly right after incidents. So, and see if they've hit other flock cameras and where could they possibly be. And that one, they arrested that individual the next day. He was riding in a car with his then girlfriend, who ended up being a witness for us during the trial.
You know, that case right there, though, isn't that the case that really, along with a lot of others that were happening, that changed bond rulings?
It did.
Because that was ridiculous that man was out on bond and running around with guns and all this kind of stuff.
Right. He had been, Longshore had been arrested several times for gun possession during those COVID years. So 2020
when you were on bond, I didn't think you wanted to do anything bad at all.
Right. And so that was a good case to use as an example to the legislature as to why we needed that bond reform. And I'm glad they passed it, because I think we have seen a big change in repeat offenders going right back out and committing more crimes since the bond reform bill. It's not perfect, but it is at least caused the magistrate judges that before thought they had to just give a bond every time. Now that law gives them the ability to say, no, you were out on a prior bond, as long as they're provided the criminal history, which they're supposed to under the law look at during a bond hearing, that they have to deny those bonds, and they have to go up to circuit court for and at circuit court, it's not like the morning after the crime, because a lot of times my office, we don't even know about it the morning after. Sometimes we do. Depends on whether law enforcement reaches out to us. But during circuit court bonds, we can put up the entire criminal history of the defendant. We can put the facts up. We have a lot better chance to make sure the court has the information they need.
Well, I think it's ridiculous that the court doesn't have the information that they need. And I understood that was part of the problem. Some of these magistrates judges did not have that information.
Right.
But so as it kind of what I was just thinking was kind of reminds you what they talk about in California. They were talking about on the news last night. Well, any of these people they arrested, they'd be right back out. And just think about that as something that we were dealing with right here in South Carolina.
I know in some of the bigger cities, and particularly in California, I think, there's very little accountability for crime right now. And it's a lot of these cities that elected DAs largely funded by George Soros PACs.
Anybody ever approach you, David? I just got to know. I got to know. This is a hard question. Anybody, David Soros group, ever contact your group?
I don't think they'd contact me. They wouldn't get very far with me. Now, I don't know. I mean, they may try to recruit somebody to run against me. That's probably the more likely outcome because, we wouldn't have anything in common, my office, with the George Soros people.
Well, the sanctuary cities certainly. Do you think that we will see, with what Trump is doing, this is just a hypothetical, do you think we will see an end to sanctuary cities?
I hope so. Of course, there's only so much that the federal government can do to control what city governments pass, if that makes sense.
Sure.
If they violate, constitutionally, if a city passes a law that's unconstitutional, it can be challenged in court and struck down as unconstitutional. Sanctuary cities very well could be unconstitutional, and I don't know that the Supreme Court has ever weighed in on that. I would think that at the end of the day, it should be a supremacy clause issue. I mean, the federal government it's their job primarily to deal with immigration issues.
Right.
So if you have a city government that says, well, we don't choose to recognize federal law and federal law enforcement when it comes to immigration issues, I think that's a problem under the supremacy clause in the Constitution. There are certain things that are reserved to the federal government, and protecting our borders is one of those. One of those matters.
Sure.
It's one of the reasons why it's the exact opposite. Texas was trying to enforce federal immigration law because the federal government wasn't doing it during the Biden administration.
Right. They were trying
then
to
the Department of Justice tried to sue Texas for just doing what they were failing to do.
Right.
But this is the opposite issue of that. And at the end of the day, it just blows my mind, Ann, that the citizens of these cities that are just going up in flames would continue to elect officials that are allowing it to happen and enabling it, right?
Right.
And that's what's really going on.
Absolutely.
And, it's one of the reasons why there's been a mass exodus of good people from some of our cities that used to be these crown jewels. I mean, like San Francisco, what a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And then now, who wants to live in San Francisco? I mean,
it's a mess.
There's crime everywhere. There's homeless people that, are just, trashing the streets and defecating everywhere. I mean, it's awful. I mean, why would you want to live in a place like that? So I think it's one of the reasons why you're seeing a population influx to the Southeast and our state in particular. We're one of the fastest growing states in the country, and I'd like to think that the folks, and I've met a lot of them in the last couple of years, just anecdotally, I've met a lot of people that have told me that they are here because they didn't like the politics and the direction things were going where they came from. So, as long as they come here and don't bring Democrat voting trends with them and left-wing voting trends, they're
Isn't that
welcome.
What we say, don't bring your politics, but you can come and go with what we have
Come on,
here.
and as long as you're willing to assimilate to the way we do things
But
here.
Isn't that what the idea of immigration was to begin with? To assimilate. And I don't really know what's happened where, everybody that has come to this country has always had their special Christmas traditions and this type of thing. But they didn't want to live like they were in another place.
Right.
That's what happened in our country here.
And I think that's the reason why in Los Angeles you're seeing a bunch of Mexican national flags flying.
Not
from
one
these
American
protesters.
flag.
Yes,
Yes.
correct. And because again, and this is not to paint with a broad brush, because there's a lot of Latino Americans who have come to our country, started businesses, work hard,
Absolutely.
and done things the right way. And it's what's a disgrace for the Democrat Party is they just have trampled all over those people that came here and did it the right way. And a lot of Latino Americans are very proud to be Americans now. They still maintain some of their their culture
Sure,
and traditions
yeah.
with food and dress and a lot of the other cultural aspects. That's great. I think it's one thing that makes America what it is we have so many different cultures that have come here, but there has to be a commonality to the vision of America and wanting to live under the rule of law, and not not do things the way you're not supposed to do them. And so I think we've assimilated a lot of different cultures into America. It's become kind of a melting pot, but we all are on board with the idea of individual liberties and freedoms, and particularly the things that we see in our Constitution that are unique to America. Honestly, I mean that we were the experiment in all these liberties back in 1776. We've maintained that. Now we've spread that to a lot of other countries, but a lot of our constitutional freedoms began here. So if you want to be an American, that at minimum should be what you're signing up for.
Absolutely.
So if you want to enjoy all the benefits and the prosperity we have in our country, you have to also agree to live as an American citizen and live under our laws.
Well, look at how many people that become citizens, what they have to go through to become a citizen. I mean, the test, the knowing the Constitution, being able to answer all these questions. How many Americans can actually answer
Right, yeah.
all the things that they have to do? And that is, I think, a testament to it. But what type of, how are you caught up? Is your office caught up with cases and everything? I know there was a big push after COVID to start moving the mountain, and I think they put some extra judges on and this type of thing.
Right.
Are you caught up?
I'll tell you this, the judges, it's been nice having extra judges, but right now, and I just got an email about this today, there's a shortage of court reporters, and we've experienced that. Here's some of our terms of court. So the court administration, while they were able to add judges, now, because during the previous Chief Justice's administration, he had this idea that we're going to go to a completely digital form of court reporting,
Right.
automated, AI-type generated stuff.
Right.
And the technology to have that is good, but you still have to have a live person to make sure to quality check what's being recorded by the AI is accurate.
Unless
I mean,
the
especially
AI,
if there's
what
a
if the
court record.
AI went rogue?
Right. So all that to say, AI is great for certain things, but court reporting, you have to have an accurate record of what happens in a courtroom.
Exactly.
So it gets reviewed later on appeal, and make sure that due process rights are
Afforded.
afforded the defendants. So that has been one of the problems. But all that to say, we dipped under 10,000 cases for the first time since before COVID recently, and so we are making a dent.
Making a dent?
Because we had gotten up to almost 13,000 cases after COVID. So
Now, how far behind? So how long can somebody's court case take to get through the system?
There's no hard and fast rule on that.
No,
it's
but
not a black and white
right.
thing. But I mean, ideally, we've always liked to resolve cases within 18 months.
Sure. Okay.
12 to 18 months is your ideal. We, over the last couple of years, a lot of times our trials are things that happened 2 years ago. In fact, the one I tried in January happened during the late summer of 2022, and I tried it in January of 25. So it was about 2.5 years after the incident. Thankfully, that guy finally was locked up that whole 2.5 years
Right.
awaiting trial. But so it's still, that gives you a good example. But now, again, I've tried a case in Lawrence in January where a little 3-year-old, no, not in January, it was mid-December, right before Christmas, a little 3-year-old girl named Maddie Hines was killed by an illegal immigrant who was driving a vehicle without a license, plowed through a stop sign over in Lawrence County and killed this little girl. So I prosecuted that one myself, went to Lawrence. We tried that one in about 13 months, 14 months. It happened in September of 23. We tried it in December of 24. So 14, 15 months. So we did a lot better on that one. So it just depends on how quickly you can get a case ready. The solicitors still have discretion on how we set the trial dockets, how the judges can grant a continuance or grant a speedy trial, which is very rare. Most defendants don't want a speedy trial. They want to push it off as long as they can push it off. But we still have the ability to call the cases initially and put them on that trial docket. So if there's a case that the community is really concerned about, or it's a major public safety issue that we're concerned about, I can fast track that case a little bit quicker than sometimes others. So the reason why the other one took 2.5 years partially was he was on his third lawyer too. So we had actually tried to call that case.
You're talking about Longshore?
The Longshore case, before the 2-year mark, and we had it scheduled initially. Then he ended up firing his private attorney that he had hired, and he got appointed another one. And then he had that appointed one he ended up firing, and he got well,
I think his first attorney was a senator, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, that was the problem on
right,
that. The senator actually never signed up to represent him on the murder case because he knew that it wasn't going to do him any good. He wasn't.
But he was the one that
he was the one on
all
the prior ones. Yes,
exactly.
So
Allen up there in Greenville, I think. Carl Allen. Yep.
Senator Allen had that, and sometimes our oldest cases on our docket seem to be Senator Allen. So I know you and I've talked about the judicial reform issue before, and certainly we need more executive branch involvement in how we elect our judges. And we did pass a judicial reform law last year. Attorney General Wilson was very instrumental in helping try to push that through. And I know I've heard him say this before too. We need to do a lot more work on judicial reform. That bill was okay. It changed some things. It gave the governor some appointments on the Judicial Merit Screening Commission, which before it was all legislatively dominated. And I think if you have the executive branch involved, then ultimately you take away the ability for legislators to abuse that power.
Sure.
If that makes sense. So anyway, hopefully we'll get another judicial reform push here in the next couple of years. I'm going to be very instrumental as the elected solicitor in that. I know we've talked about this before. I've considered if Attorney General Wilson doesn't run for re-election and decides to run for governor, I know he's very seriously considering that, and in the coming months. But
no announcement on my show today.
No announcement. He didn't give you what you were asking for. But he should he do that, and I run for Attorney General, I can promise you one big issue for me that I'm going to campaign on is judicial reform. We need to continue to make the push to make the judiciary more accountable to the citizens, and that has been one of our big issues. Now, it depends on the judge. We have some very good judges, and I know a lot of them. They do a great job, but ultimately there needs to be a little bit more accountability to the people. They need to be independent. Right now they're not. Judges really aren't independent because they're beholden to the legislature, right?
That's a problem. They
need to be beholden to there needs to be a balance of power that the Constitution.
Do you think they should be elected?
So.
I know
a lot of states they are. I've talked to the North Carolina. I have colleagues in North Carolina, all our district attorneys up there. We meet with the North Carolina DAs once a year, the solicitors do. And I've talked to them about this issue, and I've asked them, I said, the one thing we always hear in our state is, well, we can never have popular elections because then judges will have to raise money and politic, and then they could be beholden to their political donors. I get that argument, and I asked them, do y'all see that as a problem? And the feedback I've gotten from the North Carolina DAs, and of course it's all they've known, I think, because it's been that way there for decades, but they've said that they don't see that as an issue. You end up with judges in any particular area that are more reflective of their constituencies. So in the mountain, districts and counties in North Carolina, it's, a lot of hanging judges, tough sentencing judges that are more, conservative law and order guys. And then in, Charlotte or Raleigh area, the urban areas,
they reflect
Asheville, and they're more left-leaning judges, which reflects the constituency that they have. And then the people, kind of get what they vote for, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of the North Carolina DAs said they didn't have a problem with that.
Well, I would think if a judge had a conflict of interest with a person that was being accused of something, that they should recuse themselves and not
get it assigned to another judge.
Exactly.
That's what I have to do that all the time. If we have a conflict here, I have to ask the Attorney General or one of the other solicitors to handle it. It would be no different.
Now, just out of curiosity, a couple of years ago, you were on the air with me. You had an issue with the amount of money that you had coming in, and I know that this conversation we had was instrumental in helping get some of it. But my question is, how are you doing now as far as staff, as far as money? And I know you have moved offices.
We have, and we're doing much better in the last couple of years. It's mainly because the state, and I will say, there's a lot of things the legislature has or haven't done in the last couple of years that I have a problem with. One thing they have done is fund the solicitors' offices better, and they're funding the public defenders also. So usually the public defenders get a percentage of whatever they raise the solicitors to. So it's been pretty equal. But the state money increased significantly a couple of years ago for us to add staff. And in fact, we still have a couple of open positions now, and I'm aggressively trying to recruit for our office, but we have a couple of open positions even now that I'm trying to fill. I did lose Micah Black, who was my deputy solicitor in Abbeville. He just got elected 10th Circuit solicitor in Anderson, and one of my other deputy solicitors was Josh Thomas, who lived here in Greenwood, but he was working in my Lawrence office, and they were two of my best guys. So we're trying to fill these
why
guys.
They got
right.
Why they got to move on
excellent.
up. Yeah.
I'm very proud of Micah winning that election, and Josh is his right hand man now in Anderson and Oconee counties. They're doing great, but we've had to fill those gaps. We're trying. I've raised up people, so I've promoted people from within to fill those leadership positions. So we're trying to hire younger attorneys now. So we're going to all the job fairs and everything. All that to say, it's a better problem to have, I guess, when you have the money and have the positions. So, when we are able to get people to commit to come here, that's been the biggest problem is everybody got, I guess, received more money a couple years ago. So a lot of the bigger circuits had more money to pay people too. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times I'm competing with Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, bigger urban areas where a lot of the younger guys want to live.
Sure.
So 25-year-olds that are graduating from law school, I'm really trying to sell them on Greenwood. In fact, I have one starting who's not from the area, grew up north, came to school at USC. She's starting with us in August. Came here, loved Greenwood, just loved it, and.
Did you ask her to do a commercial for you?
So yeah, I need to. I really need to because and she did mock trial in law school. I saw her do a mock trial session that was recorded, and she did a fantastic job. But her name's Abigail Lodge. She's starting with us in August. One of the reasons, Ann, that we moved into the new office. Well, we had to move somewhere. I'll put it that way. That the county was basically going to completely. Redo Park Plaza, where our office had been for 40
they've
years.
moved a lot of people out of there right now and put them in different.
Those temporary the trailers they got out there in the parking lot. But then they had several other agencies out at the close to the airport at the old church building out there. The plan initially, I guess, and wasn't consulted on a lot of this plan, but the offer was basically they said, well, you're going to be leaving Park Plaza, but we're going to put you in the basement of the courthouse. So we went over and looked at the basement. It's where 911 dispatch is. EMS used to be down there. Now they've moved out to the old church building out at the old airport, or close to the airport. We looked at the building, Ann, in the basement, and there weren't enough offices down there to put my Greenwood operation, first of all. So that was a big part of this just is not going to be an option for us.
Right.
The county suggested at one point, well, can you just have some people work from home, maybe? And that's not an option for my office.
Right. Yeah. You have to have security too, right? Yes.
So, so all that to say, when that was what the county informed us that we were going to be going to, and not only did it not have enough office for the people I had at the time, like I told you before, with some of the new money, we have open positions I'm trying to fill, so I'm trying to grow the office. So we started looking around uptown, just thinking, well, let's just see what's out there. Greenwood Development had a space above where Sled Dog Brewery is, and Mary Francis, kind of across from David Lindsay on Waller. It had been where the Upper Savannah Council of Governments were located for a number of years. They left there in 2015, and Greenwood Developments just had this space open for 9 years when we went to look at it. And certainly what I saw that they were going to, the going rate for a commercial lease was pretty high, and it was something that I didn't think we could really afford for that much space. It's about 10,000 square feet, but it was very conducive to putting everybody we had in that office and have room to grow to a couple of spare offices.
Sure.
It had a big conference room area that we could put a conference table and do trainings. So it was very conducive to what we needed. I went to Greenwood Development. We talked. Bubba Self and I had a conversation. We were able to get a very good lease worked out. I mean, obviously, it's a building they hadn't had occupied in 9 years, so we were able to get a very good price on it, and we were able to upgrade, put some improvements in there with some capital money that we had. We had penny sales tax money from putting in we were supposed to get it in 2017 when they first passed that for our software. So our case management software had been approved back then. Well, that money didn't come in till 2024, and we had already gone and used some money we had to get that program and pay for it over several years. So the way the finances all worked out and was providential almost, I think. It was to a point where we could easily afford the new office space, and we needed a place where I could not only retain the current talent I had, because if I'd put them in that basement over there and they were working in a little closet size office, I may have lost some of my people to the nice.
It doesn't make you feel very special, does
right.
it? Yeah.
So anyway, I think we're in a good situation now, and the county is going to continue to revamp the court. Once Park Plaza gets done, a lot of the assessor, tax office, several of the other administrative offices, they're going to Park Plaza, and we're going to end up with some space in the courthouse for just our Greenwood court staff to work during court week. So it'll be a handful of offices and a conference table where our lawyers and victim advocates can work during a week's work of court in Greenwood. So it's all working out really well. We could not have afforded to do this 4 or 5 years ago during COVID. And with COVID, we lost the court fine and fees money. We already weren't funded very well. The counties are doing a little bit better. I will say that Greenwood County gave us some money this year that was opioid settlement related, and that money has to be spent on drug issues. So we put that money in play for our drug units, which has helped us battle this fentanyl problem we've had. So there have been some things Greenwood County Council has done to give us some new funding. I think we're not quite yet where I'd like to see us with funding from the counties, but it's better than it was when we talked a couple of years ago.
Now, do you still have drug court?
We do. My drug court director, Michael Cox, left us he went to Anderson. He lives in Anderson, and he's one of Micah's investigators in Anderson now. But we still have our drug court program and our veterans court up and running, and I'm very proud of that. We've had to kind of patch together the management of that. So Jamie Stiefel, who's my office manager, my guy who's running veterans courts, doing more with drug court clients now and those defendants. But we are running the drug court program.
That's great. Now, what about the program that is for juveniles? There is, what's that called?
Juvenile arbitration. That's
Yes.
the one where we take volunteers from.
Is that a
the
program
community.
you're still doing?
We do. Taylor is running that for us now. She just came on with us. Taylor Rhodes. She came on with us about a year ago to replace our former juvenile arbitration director, who decided she was going to go into teaching, actually. So one of our victim advocates also was working in that program, and now she's a victim advocate in Lawrence. So Taylor's been with us about a year running arbitration, and
I think that's a really
a
good program that a lot of people don't really know that much about.
I think we're going to try to continue. We're going to try to improve on our promoting of it. I think the last couple of years, since I've had a lot of turnover in that area, we used to every year put out a solicitation for people to come in and do the training and volunteer.
Right.
And we haven't done as good of a job promoting that on social media.
You might could
last
do
few
that
years.
on WCRS
So
radio
that's a
too.
good
I
idea.
mean,
So
the voice of Greenwood right
that's
here.
a fantastic idea, Ann. I think we will. I'll take you up on that. Well, we need to get. I'll look into us putting that out. That I've talked to people who've participated in that who just say it's one of the best things they ever did.
Well, I think both from a volunteer standpoint, and look what it did for a lot of the people, the young people who were headed in the wrong direction.
Right, that's right.
So it's a win-win, I believe.
It is. We're not going to save all of those kids, they're going through the juvenile prosecution system, but the ones that have, just messed up once
Right.
or twice, and they need to kind of get
with the
right,
program.
not major. Obviously, we don't put kids that are shooting at people in juvenile arbitration. It's for typically more minor offenses.
Sure.
But there's a lot of kids that can use that mentorship from a lot of times it's pastors that come in that are retired, other people in the community that are just good people that want to mentor these young folks, and we're very thankful for the people that have been involved.
Absolutely, right. It just in some cases, I know, because we used to talk to some of the people, just writing a "I'm sorry" letter was a big deal for some of these kids because they had no idea how to do this.
Right.
And making restitution and this type of thing. So I think that's a really good program. Well, let's see. I kind of get you're not going to make a big announcement on my show today either, huh?
Not today, but I will say that things are. I'm looking into it. We're seriously considering it. We're having conversations with people. If that time should come, I think we'll have a lot of support. I really do. It's been encouraging to get that positive feedback, because you never know what you're going to get with that. But I think we're going to have a lot of support when the time comes, if and when the time comes to do that. But certainly. I enjoy my current job. I could do this the rest of my career and be perfectly content if I'm fortunate to continue to get elected. So the one thing I am looking at is it's midterm for me. So if I were to run for Attorney General next year, I would not. It's not at the same time you file for Solicitor. So I could run as the 8th Circuit Solicitor if I somehow, if we don't win it, and could very well happen that way. I love.
Oh, so that's kind of a safe. That's a safety thing.
I will say that, and one of the reasons I think that's important to me is I care about this circuit and I love this circuit. I think we'll have a good if things happen to where I do run and I am able to get elected. I think we've set up we have a great staff in our circuit right now that would handle things well. I'm confident today that we have a lot of experience in our office and people that could pick up the ball if I do go to Columbia, that could do it well. But if not, I love what we do now, and I love working with our law enforcement agencies. And
well, I'd say it's probably pretty comfortable. Probably pretty comfortable. You know it, right?
I know the job well, and it's when you have good people that work for you and that you work with, it makes the job a lot easier. I can tell you that. And I think we've made a lot of strides in Greenwood. We're trying a lot of cases. Again, we're typically during most terms of court, we're striking a jury, trying a case. We built that up here as an expectation. And I think that gives law enforcement a lot of confidence to say, well, look, the solicitor and his folks may not win every single case, and we don't. And I've heard this from law enforcement guys, all they want to do is see us fight and walk alongside them while they're fighting to keep the community safe. And so I love that part of the job, and that's what we get to do every day. So we'll see next year how things play out, and heck, Alan may change his mind, decide to just keep being the Attorney General. So.
Well, I can remember when you first were running for office. I interviewed you, and you did say something to the effect, I think, that you were going to try cases and you were going to whittle them down, and they were going to hopefully that these people would go ahead and cop a plea rather than take it all the way through a trial.
And I think we've had a lot of success with that too. We've had good plea results because they know, look, these guys will try the case if you turn down their plea offer. So that allows us to drive a little bit harder bargain on the plea process. So and I've talked to other, again, Micah getting elected, that was partially because the sheriff up there was very supportive of Micah, because he said, well, y'all do things different in the 8th Circuit. Y'all actually try cases. That's what the sheriff of Anderson told me. And they kind of viewed our circuit as kind of the place that they wish they were, because they were having some trouble with their solicitor's office up there getting cases to trial. They were just moving stuff, just move the numbers. And they had not tried hardly anything. And they were having real problems in Anderson. And so I think Mike is turning that around up there as we speak. I know he tried a guy that shot at a police officer in the past, about a month ago, and got a conviction on that. And that gave law enforcement a good boost that, hey, this guy's going to try a guy that took a shot at us. And thankfully the guy that shot at him didn't hit anybody. But they were able to get a conviction and a big sentence on that guy. So I think we've done that here in the 8th Circuit, and I'd love to, if we're able next year, if things work out and I get elected, I want to bring that mindset to Columbia, that we have here in the 8th Circuit, and continue a lot of the good things that Attorney General Wilson's doing as well. Particularly on policy issues. He's done a great job of fighting bad policy coming out of Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
With the other AGs, and I want to continue that. I think he's done a phenomenal job in that area.
Now, let me ask you something. What do you think about and then we'll finish up because I don't want to keep you too long here. We'll have you back again. How about that?
Sure.
Liquor liability. What did you feel about that when that passed?
I think that that was needed. One thing that we had heard I had heard from a lot of restaurant owners and musicians. Musicians were just really,
because they were losing their
venues to play,
right?
And it was because there was this $1 million minimum liquor liability that they had to carry. And so I think something needed to be done. I mean, when you're seeing businesses go out of business, and my understanding is there are only two insurance companies that would even insure South Carolina bars and
something
restaurants.
Like that, yeah.
I mean, and they were just charging out the nose on the premiums. And so that issue did need to be addressed. I think that.
Do you think they addressed enough of it?
probably there needs to be a little bit more work done, I think, on tort reform. I will say that one thing I don't want to see happen is legitimate litigants, that victims, for example, we have crime victims that end up hurt severely by drunk drivers. And you do want to make sure that they are, to the greatest extent possible, made whole. But by the same token, the joint and several liability, I know they changed. They probably need to change this to where for example, the bar that overserves isn't responsible for 100% of the. Because a lot of times your drunk driver's judgment proof. They may not have an asset to their name, and the person that's hurt may have astronomical bills. So
right.
There needs to be some balance in the way we do it. I do think that you don't need to get rid of joint and several completely, but maybe some limits on the joint and several as to the percentage that has to be paid by any given party. Mm-hmm. That may be a helpful way to, and I know that's been part of the proposals on tort reform. None of that directly affects the criminal side of things because it's all on the civil court side. Sure. But I see the arguments both ways. I think we just need to be cautious that with tort reform, we don't harm the legitimate victims from being able to get things made right in civil court. Does that make sense? Because I have seen a lot of those cases where victims are able to get some financial compensation. So I think the liquor liability law that was passed was a step in the right direction, and I think they probably need to go back to the drawing board and get some other things, maybe some further tort reform looked at, though.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, anything else you'd like to say as we finish up here?
No, I just want to tell the citizens and your listeners that I'm proud to be a representative of you in our courtrooms, and it's just an honor, has been for the last 12 years, going on year 13 of this, and I love being able to represent our people in the courtrooms in this county and the other 3 counties of the circuit.
Yeah, and your kids are almost all grown up.
I know, can't believe it. I have one who's married. I have a daughter-in-law now, Ann, if you can believe that.
I'm telling you, life is changing.
And my youngest one is going into the 10th grade, so she is getting older and driving a car now, and so we don't have any little ones anymore.
I understand. Well, thank you so much, David Stumbo, Solicitor David Stumbo, for coming out and finishing up the show here this afternoon. It's been all about the law today. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for us right here on WCRS Radio. I am Ann Eller. I will be back in the morning. I've got a pretty big announcement about what is going to be happening tomorrow on Meet Me at the Diner. So you're going to want to tune in for that to see what we're going to be talking about tomorrow afternoon. And that's about all I am going to say. So without further ado, take it away. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for being with us here today on WCRS Radio. Take it away, Ann.
Is this an Aussie doodle?
She's a poodle. Yes.
No,